Hello and welcome to another episode of Dance Teachers Academy. I am your host, Jose on the mic, and with me is the lovely, amazing dancer, May. How are you doing, sweetheart?
Excellent today.
You're looking fabulous. $1,000,000 tax-free, I would say. This week, the center of the universe is the Emerald Ball,
In
also
Los
known
Angeles.
as the Hilton, LAX. And we are very fortunate to have with us our guest today, Mr. Mayo Alanen. How are you doing, sir?
I'm well. Thank you for having me.
You look great, man.
Oh, thanks.
You really do. We had a chance to catch some of your
privilege.
the privilege, actually.
Watching
Yes,
you compete with your
watching you
student.
compete today, man. That was.
Yeah, usually this hair is not quite as much gel in it. That's why
I'm sure.
I was
We got
dancing.
some- we got some
I literally
product.
just got off the floor, and here I am. And so
Look
thank
how
you guys.
Fabulous you look.
Dude, no, that was some pretty good competition you guys were up against.
Oh, yeah.
Emerald is tough, right? This is
Yes.
one of the absolute biggest events of the entire year. I feel like everyone shows up for this event, so any results, good or bad, at this event are very important. So I'm happy that it's over. It's a stressful environment just because the stakes are so high.
Mm.
So to have the feeling of catharsis when my student Christy danced beautifully and was able to
I was just
perform
gonna
at
ask
her
you.
highest level, I'm just so happy. Like
In the red.
I'm like, yeah, she wore a
That
red
tall.
dress.
Yes.
I was gonna say,
Beautiful.
who was that tall drink of water
Yeah.
you had in the
Yeah.
red?
That's Christy. That's
Boy,
Christy.
she was sassy out there.
Thank you. Yeah, she finally really came to life the way that I know she's always been able to, but usually
Wow,
it
we got to see it.
You saw it. You saw her best ever
Wow, that
competition performance because she does that in the dance studio all the time.
Okay.
And she never does it at a dance competition.
Wow.
And it's been one of our biggest struggles. And
Game day.
today was
she brought
game
it.
day, beautiful performance.
Oh, yeah.
And she's happy right now, so
She
I'm
is.
happy, and
Okay.
we're both thrilled.
And I've got to say something. I don't
Yeah.
mean to interrupt my
No,
guest,
of
but
course.
so we had the privilege of watching. So it was really exciting because we were going down the ballroom to say, "Oh, I hope we get a chance to see Mayo dance." So here we see you dance, and then I just wanted to tell you how I felt as a spectator, as a competitor, and as an instructor because I watched
Yeah.
every moment. Because I talk about this with my students. But while you go on the floor, while you're on the floor, in between dances, and as you come off the floor. And I
Sure.
watched every moment, and I watched her excitement after she danced. She was so happy.
She
I
truly
could
was.
see it
Yeah, she
across
was.
the ballroom. She was absolutely thrilled, and she was so happy.
Yeah, it's nice for you to say that. It actually makes me get a little emotional right now. I'm getting teared up. But
Look at him.
Christy was, she did walk off the floor before, even actually right before Beanie's waltz started. She was so happy because she danced her waltz beautifully. And you know, the waltz ends, we both looked at each other and we were like, that was pretty good. And then the tango
Yes.
ended and I looked at her and she looked at me and we were like, that was also really good. And by the
Yes.
time the third dance out of 4 went well,
Mhm.
we both just looked at each other and had this like total joy because you've already done 3/4 of the dances.
Yes.
And you've done better than you ever
You
had ever
looked
danced.
peaceful.
I was so peaceful. And
out
she
there.
was too.
Yes.
Yes.
And it means a lot that
team.
you
Noticed that.
noticed because
Of course.
because when we walked off the floor, she was beaming, and
Yes.
the
Yes, she
results
was.
didn't matter. And
I heard her say, I saw her
Yeah.
mouth say that. Like I pay attention because I always tell my students, if you're not happy with how you just dance, don't, it's not that I don't want you to show your emotions,
Sure.
but just not right there if you're not
Sure.
happy. Let's go into the hallway, let's
Sure.
talk about it, because it's a presentation. But it was really exciting to see that, and I could see her say, "I don't care," or something. And
Yeah,
I kind of
that's-
imagined it was, I don't care what my results were.
It's
I'm
true.
so happy with. I
It's
mean, I
true.
could see her body language, and she's hugging you and high five.
Thank you for saying so because
And-
those moments are really precious to me, and to hear other people notice really means a lot because she put a lot. Like, you have no idea the hours and the effort that woman puts into her training. It's
Oh, it
mind-blowing.
showed on the floor.
And for it to all come together like that and for her to be able to enjoy it is like so rewarding for me
Yeah.
as her teacher.
So, and just to and I'm bragging about you right now. You don't
Go
have to
ahead,
brag
hey,
about yourself.
keep it coming. I love it.
Coming.
So what I saw in the performance in the competition, which I really admire, and I like for Jose to give his opinion too, because he's not from a dance background, which is
No,
really
absolutely not.
cool.
Nice.
Because it kind of keeps us dancers like straight. Does that make sense?
Totally.
Yeah. But what I saw was such control, almost like there was, like in the movies, a spotlight on the two of you. I could not keep my eyes off
That's
of
so
you.
sweet.
And when
Thank
there was
you.
other people doing all kinds of stuff, and it was
Yeah.
fancy stuff, but it was like all kind of, not all of them, but hurried and
Sure.
like one thing after another, and then it was just you two with your control.
Thank you for noticing.
And then there
Graceful
was
out there, yeah.
fastness to it too
Sure.
in the choreography, but you just got drawn in. That's how I felt
Oh, thank you
as a
for saying so.
spectator. But what did you think?
No, that's what I said initially. It's like,
That's
she
awesome.
was really sassy out there.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
she
like
was.
Kicks like a rocket too.
Yeah, yes, she
She
does.
does. She works hard on her flexibility and her strength,
Yes.
but yeah, we try to kind of conceptualize almost like a bubble. Like you're out there, and it really is you and your dance partner
Uh-huh.
in this very chaotic universe.
Very
of like
chaotic. Yes.
couples just almost thrashing around, and judges staring at your feet, and lights blinding you,
Yes.
and music, and you've spent a lot of money to get there, so there's this weight of the whole event that can crush you, and it
Yes.
can literally crush you and not allow you to express yourself.
Right.
So with Christy, what we've really been spending a lot of time on in the studio is try to create almost like this bubble where that's all fine, that's all happening, but at
You
the
can't
moment,
control that.
when it really comes down to is the same thing we do in the dance studio. It's just you and me and our little dance. And we tried to frame almost like a practice session today where we were training in a dance studio, and it just happened to be in Los Angeles. And
At the Emerald Ball.
yeah, at the Emerald Ball. And we were actually
No big
joking.
deal.
Like when we came out on the floor, we were like, "Gosh, this is a nice studio." She's like, "Yes, it has lovely high ceilings. I love this studio." And we were kind of playing around,
That's a good idea.
We tried to frame it
Yeah.
That
to
is
not
good.
put it as a dance competition, because sometimes that changes the entire release of your joints and the way your muscles work, and you can really like stifle yourself. So I'll
No,
be
you
very
guys look
happy
really
on
relaxed out
the
there.
plane home today, because she was able to mentally do that. That's nothing I can control, right? It's nothing I can spend another 5 hours working on the foot pressure. It's nothing I have power over. It's just when my students can really click in mentally to be able to be artists instead of just like trying to dance well. It's really
artistry.
special, and
Yeah.
she did that today, and she's like
Magical.
so happy,
Oh, dude,
Yeah.
she killed
and
it.
me too.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
absolutely killed it.
Yeah.
So I want to tell you the first time that I met you, it was at a Texas competition.
Okay.
And I was watching you dance the Viennese waltz, and I was like, wow, that is great choreography. I was there
Moves
with
like
my
a cat
student.
out there.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
cool.
said, I'm going to go and ask that guy who choreographed his routine. So I
Okay.
came up to you, because, sometimes I don't even think about what I'm doing. I'm just
Yeah.
like, I'm just going to ask.
Good. I love that boldness.
And I said, oh, I loved your Viennese waltz. Who did your choreography? And I don't know why I expected you to say someone else. You said,
Yeah.
oh, I did. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, oh. Because I was going to go get choreography from
Of
that
course.
person. And so I was like, oh.
Well, there he
Well,
is.
then, yes,
Yeah.
then I need to, and it hadn't happened yet, but I was struggling with
No.
my own choreography for Viennese
Sure.
waltz.
Sure.
So I just thought, wow, I need to.
It's funny that you say it. It is actually abnormal for us to do our own choreography, which seems strange to me, right? Like, here we are, we're professional dancers.
Should be second nature to you.
We're super trained. We
It's
have
hard.
all of these influences and all of these coaches that shape our minds into creating whatever work we want to create. And even recently, like, I have a lot of really good professional couples come to me and say, give me a waltz, give me a foxtrot, give me a Viennese waltz. And my advice to them, when they're that good, is that is so against what we should be doing, because I'm very firm believer that if we want to see variety, if we want to see real art being created on the floor, all of us, myself included, and my co-workers and colleagues, they should be creating their own choreography and making their own art.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, we always go to the best choreographers, right? Whoever that might be, the flavor of the month, everyone's going to look the same as them. And I will say that a lot of these choreographers are super able to find your strengths and kind of create a unique package for you. And I do that for a lot of my students too. But there's something really sadly rare about asking a professional dancer, hey, who did your choreography? And them saying, I did it myself. And I think that's sad. I think that we should all try to trust ourselves, realize that we are experts.
It does make sense.
And make your own art. And
Yes.
then it would be so much more diversity on the floor and so much more creative influence. Because there's a few people, I would say, that are kind of holding the reins on all these great dancers. And they're creating beautiful work, but it's still not coming from those two humans, right? So for me, it's something that I'm very passionate about, that anything I put on the floor with my students or with my professional partner comes from my own brain or her own brain. And a lot of times I'll collaborate ideas with my students even and be like, what works for you? So it's literally ours. And it makes it, to me, good or bad, right? Someone could look at it and say, oh, that's weird, I don't like that. Or they could look at it and say, oh, I love that. But at the end of the day, it's mine, and
Yes.
it's ours, and it's special.
Sure.
And to
It's your
me,
child.
that's how you create
That's
art.
your baby.
You know, it's not like. So anyways, for me, that's huge. So yeah, it's funny that you remember that moment when you asked me.
I also remember because you were so generous and approachable.
Okay, that's
Which-
nice. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
I try to be nice. I mean,
You are nice.
My parents raised me in Texas.
Yes.
We went to Cotillion and had to do all of that stuff, but
Have good
thank you
manners.
so much.
Well, no, thank you.
It
And
means a
so,
lot.
so as you know, in our business, we have all kinds of different personalities.
Sure.
Very unique individuals.
Sure.
So sometimes,
That's putting it mildly.
sometimes it really does take, he's met him. It takes the boldness to approach someone because you don't know how they're going to react
Yeah, that's
back
interesting.
to you, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, you know what? I don't care because I want to find out. I'm interested. I'm
Sure.
curious. You know.
Well, it's part of what we were talking about before we started recording about the Tony Redpath podcast, right?
Yes.
Here's this incredible champion who we all just visualize as an absolutely unflawed human that is just like a work of art that could
And
never
cool
possibly
and fun
be
and everything.
second guessing herself or
Right.
battling with any insecurities.
Right.
And she did, and she shared that, and it
Yes.
shows how human she is. And
Yes.
I think that part of the beauty in her ability to do that so openly is lacking in our industry because we kind of project this champion persona, right, where you kind of have this like elegant posture and almost standoffish. It's almost like ego is sort of valued on the competitive dance floor, right? And I say a lot of times, like to a lot of my students that have a hard time holding themselves with this type of, I guess, pompous poise, this elegant, arrogant poise.
Yeah.
It's a little bit uncomfortable for some people that are perhaps a little bit more meek or timid humans to put on this facade. But one thing that I try to frame it is that I'm a nice guy. At least I'd like to think I'm a nice human. And when I dance, I could appear a little bit intimidating and maybe even unapproachable and maybe arrogant, right? Because of that poise and that silhouette that you're trying to produce with your dancing. So the way I frame it for my students and for myself is that it's simply your body and your posture is like your instrument, and it just happens to look better when you stand that way, just as a piece of art, right? It's not about being a jerk, it's not about having an ego, it's not about puffing up your chest, it just looks aesthetically more pleasing to the eye, but you can still be nice and genuine.
Sure.
But yeah, definitely, this industry is full of a lot of people that are doing that, not just physically. You know, it's almost like they embody that, and it's part of a strength, which to me is not the nicest quality.
See, and I think
can
it's
be
an
off-putting.
insecurity.
It could be also an insecurity. You're right,
In some
absolutely,
cases,
yeah.
Because I find not just with dancers, but musicians, artists, like at the highest level, they've really succeeded, you know, in things that are important to them,
Sure.
as well as, you know, just in terms of their industry. are extremely approachable
Sure.
and very nice and generous, and it's the ones that are not quite there, I think,
Yeah.
sometimes.
That's fair. That's a fair point. I've seen that definitely.
Not always, but
Yeah.
yeah. But anyway, so interesting. I admire you very much as an instructor, and
Thank you.
you caught my eye on Facebook.
Okay.
You write a lot about your students, and I'm like, God, I should do that about my students too. Maybe I'll just have them on the podcast. But
Well,
anyway,
that's
I
part
think
of
it's
it,
so
yeah.
nice. You're just really complimenting them, and you talk about their journey, and I think
Sure.
that's really important. And you talk about what this picture shows, but what you
Yeah.
don't see is this. Okay, and so what caught my eye was, I don't remember her name,
Okay.
but I remember you affectionately calling one of her foot a banana foot and her
Oh,
other
yeah,
foot
yeah.
the pancake
Of course,
foot.
yes.
So tell me about that. And it was a Viennese waltz with
Yeah,
lifts.
absolutely. Yeah. So you're referring to my student Lauren, who
Okay.
is incredible. She suffers from cerebral palsy, so she literally has deformed feet. And I think her doctors actually came up with this term, the pancake foot and the banana foot, and it has to do with the shape. One is
I
extremely
imagine,
flat,
yeah.
and there's no arch to it, and one is curved and has a hard time, and it's a little bit in the shape of a banana. So when we're talking,
Okay.
often we'll kind of be like, is this standing spin, which is a rotation where you have to balance on the ball of your foot? Is this going to work better on your pancake foot or on your banana foot? And we just use it as like a terminology that we both understand, and
Yeah.
it's endearing, and it's something also that I will say is so cool about her is that she is just like an open book. You know, a lot of people that they struggle with things, whatever it might be. You know, we all have issues. Some of them are visible and obvious, and some of them are not. And a lot of us, I think, carry this almost shame and burden with much less affliction than something like cerebral palsy.
Right.
So for someone with cerebral palsy
Yes.
like Lauren to just be open about it is so freeing for anyone struggling with anything.
Right.
And the fact that she's like so young and so mature about
How old
it.
is she?
She's 19. I think she just turned 20, right? She's
Really?
in college. She's literally like, actually she just had her birthday. And she's celebrating. She's coming to New York. We're gonna do some fun stuff next week with her.
Awesome.
But she's so young and very, very wise. She's been through a lot, and I think that's forced her to grow up. And but yeah, it's nice that you would mention that
What?
album. It's important to me that people see
Yeah.
that and hear her story, because I think it can really. You know, you
Motivate.
throw up a bunch of pictures like that and you write about it, and some people will comment, but a lot of people will read it, and a lot of people hopefully could, even in the smallest way, be a little uplifted from that, or
Sure.
just feel a little bit less burdened by whatever they're dealing with.
Right.
I think it's powerful stuff, and to me,
Definitely.
the whole point of all of this effort that I pour into those albums is to show that there is a depth to this dance universe. I feel like it can be shallow. I feel like there's a lot of micro interactions. Like you bump into someone and the conversation is pretty predictable. It's like, oh, hi, how are you? What's your next comp? But the conversation is almost just
Right.
written out, and we all kind of connect on because of time constraints or because we're all busy, a very shallow level.
Yes.
And for me, that shallowness can create some kind of judgments, right? Where if you don't know someone really well, you can pass a judgment quickly and be like, oh, I don't like her because of this, or I love her because of that. But I feel like if we got to know each other on a deeper level and really understand what makes a person tick and why they are the way they are and what shaped them into the human that they are today, like you can't possibly hate that person, because you see what made them. And I feel like the whole industry could benefit from just a thoughtfulness and a depth to the interactions that we have. And those albums are my lame little attempt at doing that and honoring my students, and trying to just validate all of their hard work, because they all put so much into it. And oftentimes I feel like these competitions, because of the scope and the size of them, it can feel quick and you invest all this money, you come here, you dance for a minute, you get your sticker, Luckily at this comp, I feel like Wayne does a much better job. You get a medal and you get a bracelet, and like he goes above and beyond to make the students really feel special.
And he talks to them.
Yeah, he's there.
Yeah.
So this is a rare example of a competition that makes it more special, but it's still not enough for what the students have put in. So that the Facebook albums are my way of enriching that experience even further, and also to just honor my students and show their hard work. I'm proud of them, and I want to yell about it and share that with other people, because to me it blows me away.
It's nice of you, because I think there are some instructors, I think that do not appreciate their students.
Yeah, that's
you know what I mean?
sad to hear you say that, because I have seen that too, where like the actual instructor feels like their students are lucky to have them.
Oh yeah.
And they could not they could not be more wrong. It's literally the opposite.
Who's writing the check? Wait a minute.
Exactly. And honestly, I feel incredibly lucky to have all of my students, and I never feel the opposite. I am lucky to have them. Without them, I am literally, there is no Mayo, you know.
Just another day at the office.
It is. And anyone that thinks otherwise should really reevaluate their perspective.
Oh, without a doubt.
Those students, they run the entire industry. They're it. And anyone that thinks that they're a bigger deal than their students, they need to come down a rung. I always say, this is one of my things, like, I've met and brushed shoulders with a lot of impressive humans, you know, some really incredible men and women from all different career paths. And everyone has, ballroom dancers tend to have this kind of really sort of, and this is a blanket statement, a little bit stereotypical, but they tend to have big egos, okay? They just do. If I was gonna say, like, compared to your typical librarian, a ballroom dancer has more ego than a librarian, right? And just in general,
picking on the librarians now.
I don't mean to pick on them.
He's picking on the ballroom dancers,
I pick
actually.
on the ballroom dancers.
For sure, I got that.
But here's my perspective, and you guys tell me if you think this is off the mark. Unless you're an astronaut. If you're an astronaut and you've been to outer space, or even any type of astronaut, I will literally bow down to you. I will kiss your shoes. If you're not an astronaut, you are literally just like the rest of us. We're all the same. We're all literally the same. But astronauts, I have those guys can walk around with an ego. They deserve it.
Oh yeah, you know,
they're amazing.
They worked hard to.
Yeah. Well, there is that.
So speaking of working hard, and just this is not even a working hard thing. This is just your nature. I feel is very generous. It comes out in your writing, and it comes out with the awards that you get. And you got two big ones.
I did get a couple of awards this year.
Yeah.
So I got, from the NDCA, I got the Community Service Award, which was very touching.
I didn't even know they gave an award.
Yeah,
That's
it's
awesome.
really cool. They give one per year.
Because of you, I know that.
Yeah.
Because of your writing.
Well, thank you. Yeah. They honored me at, gave me a little plaque. It was very special. I felt very special. I think that one was honoring my work with my charity that I created with my co-founder Aisha Day, called Competing for a Cause.
Okay, we will
Yeah,
scroll
you can scroll that.
Yeah.
It's an incredible charity where we were basically, it was Aisha's idea, and she donated every dollar that she earned in prize money to a charitable cause, and I donated the same amount, and we matched it.
Wow.
And we did a lot of good for orphans, disabled children. We
nice.
Meals on Wheels. We did a different charity every year for the last 3 years, and some people came on board, and we just basically raised a ton of money for some great causes. So the NDCA honored me for that work, which was incredible. And then
Dancing Classrooms.
Yeah, Dancing Classrooms. They just honored me they gave me the Humanitarian Award for 2018. And I think the way they put it is they thought that I was a good role model for their kids, which was like, makes me cry just thinking about it. It's so nice because when I see those kids, like, I was literally exactly in the same spot as them. Like, in middle school, I went to, I had social dance classes, do you know what I mean? And to
like a
be able to,
right?
to be able to go back and say a few words and help inspire these kids is just incredible that happened, and I was really touched by that.
So I know that was, were you talking about when you were 13 and you
Yeah, so I guess I started dancing when I was 13. I saw the Ohio Star Ball on TV.
That's
Like
how
a lot of people, I feel like
know.
Sam
Sam
Sedano.
Sedano,
Yeah,
podcast.
I mean, he totally.
We're coming after you, Sam.
They're literally.
here.
I bet you the ratio is like 5 out of 10 dancers that are in our
It's
industry
incredible.
started from that
Yeah.
television show. Anyways, I'm another one of them, and I was just sitting on the foot of my parents' bed one day watching it, and I saw Gary and Diana McDonald actually dance this cha-cha dance with Michael Jackson music, and he was like doing the moonwalk and spinning on his back, and it just looked like such a cool thing to try. And I told my mom like I wanted to learn how to do that, and she signed me up for a local studio, and I just started taking lessons and really fell in love with it. And a lot of what the Dancing Classrooms program creates for public schools in New York City, I recognize because I benefited from it as a young kid when I was 13. For example, instead of drinking in the desert with my guy friends at the bonfire, which is what was happening in Texas, I was at Village Inn hanging out with older people, eating hash browns and talking about politics. It was just a really good environment where I saw gentlemen treating ladies with respect and holding the door for them and getting the chair and all of the beautiful things that ballroom dancing sort of embodies. I mean, at its best, sometimes it doesn't do this, but at its core, these values are important. And
a gentleman in a lady.
yeah, and I feel like that just that etiquette and that respect is something that's not being taught in schools, and it's super valuable in my opinion. And so I was honored to go and share my really passionate opinion about that and how important it is. And it truly is important.
And Pierre, who started Dancing
Yeah.
Classrooms, he started in New York, right? The
Yep,
inner
absolutely.
cities there, bringing dancing to children that would not have normally had that opportunity.
Totally.
Loved the movie too. We were talking about
Yep.
that.
I have not seen it. I saw
Oh,
a
it's
couple
great.
of clips of it.
But you know about the tango
Ballroom?
scene.
Yeah, the
with,
tango scene on there.
Antonio Banderas.
Oh, absolutely. Take the Lead. That was.
Yes.
They actually have 3 movies about them, and they have Dancing in Jaffa. So Pierre Delane is like, he's an incredibly generous, one of the, in my opinion, most influential. If you think about, the end of a human's life, you put a little ripple, and all these things will ripple out from their influence. His will be one of the best ever, I think, in our industry. So I was honored just to be at his party and to be a small part of it.
Wow.
Awesome.
Exciting. Okay, so what's in the future for you?
Oh my gosh, so many things. First of all, I have a brand new son. I have a 1-year-old son at home.
Atticus?
Wow.
Atticus is my son, so my future has completely changed from what was happening at this time last year.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
Children will do that too.
I mean, it used to be like I would sleep, and now operating without
now you
sleep is
don't.
a different world. But I'm getting used to it.
Yeah.
Luckily, I have
The beautiful Randy.
my wife Randy is just the absolute most amazing human you've ever met. None of you guys ever meet her because she's always at home, but if you ever met her or got to interview her, she would be a much better guest. She is just anything.
Wow.
Everything that I have is because she watered this plant for a very long time and made me into a better man. And the fact that she's raising my son, it just gives me so much peace. I can be here in Los Angeles and not worry about him because of her.
Yeah.
But so that's happening. He's growing up quick. He's a rambunctious little dude. Obviously, I'm most passionate about teaching my students, and that work for me is still extremely fulfilling. I also have an exciting new thing about to unfurl. I'm going to compete pro again.
You
I'm
are?
going to start dancing professionally again.
Wow.
And so that's been really inspiring to create art again with another human that is just, she brings the most incredible ideas to mind because she's awesome. And I'm intentionally not saying her name
I was
because
about to ask.
yeah, here's
yeah.
what's exciting.
Dun, dun,
Instead of
dun.
saying her name, I'm going to tell you a story about her.
Okay.
So this human, which a lot of people already know about who she is, but we're going to have a beautiful kind of rollout of stuff as we get ready. we don't want the pressure of creating our work with everyone knowing about it on top of us. So we're purposefully trying to do it under the radar, and then when
Sure.
we're ready and we've created our art, we're going to
nice
share
and
it with the world, right?
fine-tuned,
And
you
show
go
it
at
to the
it?
dance world.
Yes.
But a funny story about my partner is I wanted to dance with this girl 6 years ago.
Mm.
When I split up with Michelle Officer, we went our separate ways, which that was an amazing partnership, by the way. I have nothing but good things to say about her. Love dancing with her. But when we went our separate ways, I had a bunch of tryouts, and this one girl was magical. And I wanted to dance with her so badly. And I pretty much begged her to dance with me. And because of a bunch of other circumstances in her life, she said no, she couldn't do it. And I was pretty sad, and but I understood why. She had a bunch of excellent reasons why she couldn't do it at this time. And then many years have passed, and I tried dancing with a few other people, and it never really
Didn't
felt the
click
same.
quite
It
as
never
well.
really got there the way it did with this human. And then just recently she reached back out to me and she said, you know what, I'm ready to try this again if you're still willing.
Wow.
And I was like, absolutely, let's go. When can we start? And ever since then, it's been more magic. So I can't wait to share it. Because,
When are we going to get it? When
so
is this
yeah,
gonna-
like I said,
He's not
I don't
gonna
want
tell.
the pressure. I
He's
don't
not
want
gonna
anybody
tell.
hounding me about that. But we are just excited, and we're organically creating our art from our own hearts, and from her brain, from my brain, we're putting it together. We have a lot of great coaches helping guide that idea, but it's coming from us. So it's something that I'm really proud and really excited about, because you know what? For me, at the end of the day, I'm an artist, and to be able to express myself again in that way has been so liberating for my spirit. And she really brings out the best in me. So
Exciting! I'm looking
yeah,
forward to
Yeah,
I
no
can't wait.
kidding.
I can't wait either. And I'm purposefully not saying her name.
We'll talk
A
off
lot
camera.
of people already know, but so it's
We'll
probably
talk
not
off
that big
camera.
of a secret. But I'm still gonna keep it secret just to build suspense.
Sure.
Yeah.
Keep the drum roll going, until the debut.
I like that you are rolling it out in a special way. I
Yeah.
think that's really nice.
We're both at a point in our careers where we don't feel pressured into anything, and we're very settled, and we're just doing it on our own terms.
You can follow
Awesome.
your own path.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And whether the judges like it or not, we actually don't mind. We just want to make it for ourselves and for each other, and to
Sure.
express ourselves. So that's in the future.
Nice. Very nice.
That's such a loaded question. I could tell you about my future for an hour. I don't know what else is around the corner for me, but hopefully more children.
Beautiful.
I'm actually excited about that new partnership. you
Yeah,
got going.
that's exciting.
Well, we'll have to have you back.
Yeah,
Sure.
I would love that.
But I have one final question.
Anything at all.
Because we do ask this, and we get so many interesting answers. As a dancer or an instructor, what's the biggest challenge you've come across, and how did you overcome it?
Oh, that's a really smart question. My biggest challenge as a teacher, yeah? I would say, so you're dealing with a lot of really passionate humans. My entire student roster is very dedicated human beings that are very driven and typically very successful in their line of work, whatever it may be. And they all dedicate themselves to their craft. They all spend hours in the studio training, and they all have expectations, right, when they go to an event. And when you're at a competition, one of the things that you can't control is the roller coaster of these results. Sometimes they're great, sometimes they're bad.
That's what I understand.
Yeah, sometimes your students dance otherworldly beautiful performance and get a terrible result. And sometimes they're literally tripping all over their feet, falling, elbowing you in the face, and they get an excellent result. And my biggest struggle is trying to really convince my students and have them understand that those results are not determining your skill or your value or your efforts that you've been putting in. They're going to go up and they're going to go down like a volatile stock. And if you dance well, you can tell, you can know it. So I would say that my biggest stress is when I see a student struggling with the weight of those results at an event and losing control of themselves in that way is so stressful for me because I feel that weight.
Well, letting the results control their...
Exactly.
So
It's
they
like
lose the joy of
it's just the hardest part of my job is watching them feel down on themselves when they danced beautifully, just because this particular panel on this particular day at this particular event happened to look at you when you did a bad heel lead on step 3 in the Beanies Waltz. And because of that, they gave you a bad mark. And because of that, the computer spit out this result, and they say that you're this good. And it's below where you thought you were. And it's so hard to deal with those feelings. And I feel them too when I was competing. It's almost impossible to not take that personally. But that's definitely my biggest struggle. I would say in my teaching and also in my own competitive results as a pro, that was hard for me. Taking some of those bad results and not taking it personal. But I guess that would be my answer. Gosh, I thought of a bunch of other better ones, but I'll give you that.
I thought that
as
was a
my
really
answer.
good one.
That actually is a good one.
Yeah, because I think everyone needs to understand that. I feel everyone's gone through that.
Sure.
Not everybody talks about that.
Sure.
And how hard it is, whether you're a
Absolutely.
professional or a high level student or even a baby new student.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's so hard to manage those feelings because there's a lot of emotion
Totally.
tied in with things. So I think that's a good point.
Thank you. And I'll add one nugget to that if you think it is
Yes.
valuable. Maria Hansen was actually talking about it on one of your podcasts.
I was just about to mention.
Where she was talking about how difficult it is as a judge and how few seconds they actually get to watch you dance, right? So you put in all this effort to create this, whatever it might be in that particular event, 1 minute and 30 seconds, or usually just 1 minute and 5 seconds. It's a tiny amount of time. And the judges will literally glance at you, right? And in that glance, make a split-second decision
Yes.
and write it on a piece of paper and submit it to the computer, and it spits out this result. And my student gets that result, and it can either devastate them in a bad way or make them over the moon happy in a good way. And the important thing to realize is that it's so subjective
Yes.
that you can never beat yourself up for the bad ones, and you can never be too happy for the good ones, because it's always just a razor's edge.
Yep.
And to try to find a different way to gauge and value your progress in
Sure.
the dance business instead of these results. Easier said than done, but to me that's my biggest struggle.
That's a good nugget right there.
Well, you said so earlier, when you go out there and you kill it, you know it. You can feel it.
Yeah,
You know it.
true.
You go out there and you flubbed it, you're like, oh, that
Absolutely
wasn't
true.
very good.
Yep.
I mean, so if they give you high marks on something, you're like, you know what, that was, I'm sorry to say it, that was ass.
Yeah, no, I get it. I totally get it. And honestly, like, you see that a lot, right? Where you're watching an event and the couple is dancing beautifully and they just look like they're floating and it just looks perfect and the results are not good. And you're surprised by it.
This is why I'm
And
like,
that's your
you guys got
perspective.
fourth?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm
Well,
like, you
thank
guys
you
are-
for saying so. And, hopefully some of the judges maybe did mark us higher, but I always say that any success I ever had in my competitive career and any success I have with my students, you can't take too much credit for it, myself or my students. Like, a lot of that was subjective luck and the fleeting moment where the judge happened to glance at you and then glance at her while she was messing up. Or, do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's so fleeting and it's so unpredictable and it's so,
So you had,
I mean, let's be honest, none of us are consistent, right?
of course not.
No matter how good we ever get, no one is nailing 100% of their routines.
No.
Myself definitely included. I messed up probably 100 times today with Christy. And so any given glance could be your best moment versus someone else's worst moment, or
Right.
vice versa.
Sure.
And that is, that's the danger and struggle of a subjective sport, that we're not keeping score. We're not shooting baskets. I can't run faster and win the comp for sure. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
You're
It's,
right.
it's an art.
Yeah.
Although you were moving across that floor.
My velocity was okay.
Oh, yeah.
Nice, that's funny.
Hey, that guy found another gear, man.
Yeah, so that was so beautiful about that choreography. I always like to talk about that with my wedding couples.
Yeah.
We're going to do a simple formula of choreography. We're going to do something slow, followed by something fast, followed by something slow. And we're going to
contrast,
vary,
right?
Sure.
and then we're going to travel, and then we're going to
Sure.
do something on the spot.
Absolutely.
just
It was
easy
almost well.
You have
It
to
was
keep
almost
it
like Mayo
interesting.
said, you know what? There's too many couples over in this corner. Oh, gee, look, there's a big hole on this floor.
I
over
really
there.
like-
That's part of it. That is actually
you
part of the
ran
battle.
over it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're really good at floor craft.
Thank you.
Really, and you take good care of your lady.
Oh, thank you.
And I love how
That was good.
you keep doing your routine beautifully, but sometimes we're gonna take some extra walks over here.
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I
you
see some
notice?
space.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I'm like, good man. Yeah.
You got to do that sometimes
'cause there's
because
like
it's.
karate going on.
I mean, it was funny. I was
Fight your
joking,
way over there.
Yeah.
on the on deck area today with Peter Persia. We were just talking how intense this, because we do comps all the time, him and I together.
Yeah.
And we're always on the floor together at whatever the event might be. And this one, for whatever reason, we were both laughing about it. The quarterfinal round. We were
It's a
doing like
battle.
everybody felt like they were in the final of Blackpool, like dancing their hearts out. Like if you bumped into someone, it was like you were running into a tank. Everyone was super like intense today. So it wasn't the type of day. Sometimes the floor is a little bit less intense, and
Yeah.
you can sort of get closer to people, and you can just brush them
Yeah.
and make it work.
Yeah.
Today was one
And
of
be
those days.
playful
Yeah,
and laugh at each other.
totally. And that
Change
dancer can work.
partners.
It can work.
Yeah.
Today was not one of those days.
Today was not. No.
Today was the
No.
type of day that you took a few extra steps to get away from that group of
Yes.
people to
Oh, yeah.
find a little bit of space.
Yeah.
Especially for Chrissy because she's so long-limbed.
Mhm.
She just has long legs and
And,
long
yes.
arms, and
She
she
does.
needs space to unfurl those bad boys.
Yeah.
So for her, it is usually quite important to, as much as possible, which is not always the case, try to find as much room as possible.
Yeah. I always just enjoy that there's someone that's really good at floor craft because it is a skill.
It is a skill.
And it's and I've seen people do marvelous
Yeah.
examples of it, so I know it can happen.
Yeah, that's
Seen it work
it's,
before.
It's funny you say that. That to me, that's one of my favorite parts, because of course all of the pros, Peter, me, whoever's on that floor, we should have pretty damn good floor craft. If
Yeah.
we don't, we got a problem. You know, at that
Exactly.
point, we've done probably 100,000 of these things. We should be able to drive around.
Yes.
But what's cool to me is to watch the gentlemen students.
Yeah.
When those guys are on the floor and they're driving well,
Yeah.
that should be like worth 1,000 bonus points because that's hard to do.
It is.
So I always say that whenever there's a male competitive student
Mm-hmm.
dancing against a female competitive student, which happens a lot, right?
Mhm.
If the guy is close to the girl, that means that guy kicked her butt, in my opinion, because it's so much harder for the boys to drive that car.
It's true.
It's a whole other dimension.
It is.
And
Interesting.
it's really, to me, part of one of my favorite events is to watch the gentlemen only event, or to watch the gentlemen compete against the girls in the
It's
final
scholarship or
and compare their driving to the pros like me and Peter.
Mhm.
Like when they're driving as well as us, that's amazing.
It
Those guys
is.
they haven't done half as many comps, maybe not even 1/10 of as many times
Or
experiencing
dance
that
hours.
traffic.
Yeah.
So I love watching those guys, and it's one of my favorite things to look at. There was a lot of great dancers here today. The male gentlemen events were huge. I don't know if you saw some of them. They're just guys only. I love those events.
I did not get a chance to see those.
Super
But
cool.
we saw the scholarship where, the gentlemen
Yeah.
students and with the ladies.
Tough mix. And you
Oh,
usually see girls
yeah.
at the top of those things, right?
Yeah.
Almost always.
Right.
It's very rare for the guys to be able to ascend those ranks.
Mhm.
So when they do, those guys, we should all tip our hats to them because
I
it's
agree.
very, very challenging.
There you go, gentlemen.
But yeah,
Just got-
totally. I
Yes.
tip my hat to all the gentlemen students,
Mhm.
and not that I'm taking away from the girls because
No.
they have to do everything backwards in high heels,
Yes.
as the quote goes.
Right.
But it's just different. They don't have to worry about driving.
Well, if you think about it, so when you have pro-am
Yeah.
and the male is the professional, that's a natural dance situation.
Totally.
The man leading, the man in charge, and he's the professional. Then you switch that, the lady's the professional, but we have to get him to lead.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
another universe, right?
Yeah.
And you
and
would
I
know
have
more
really
about it than
good
I
little
do.
fingers that get
I bet. So
yeah.
you're sort of leading you're helping.
Yes.
You're-
Eyebrows.
Oh, I get it.
But I've got a
Turn
good little,
left. Go
I've got a
over
good little
here.
finger right here
Nice.
that just, it's just a little touch, but
That's pretty
there's just
funny.
little things, and I want them to lead, believe me.
Yeah.
But I like But it's
hard to teach, I would imagine. I mean, I'm sure that's not easy, right? How do you get a guy to do that? I don't even know. What do you do?
Well, you have to work on, and I'm sure you do this with ladies too, the brain and the body.
Sure.
And the harder part to me is the brain.
Sure.
Right? So I can talk about this body is moving, but now I've got to talk this man into taking my information.
Sure.
Because some men want to still figure it out themselves.
Yep.
Even though I'm the professional, I'm like, here is the answer.
Yep.
And you've paid me for the answer. But I still want to try to figure it out myself.
Yeah.
So I have to, kind of go through this
Reframe
little. Well, sometimes it's like, hey, it's your money, and we'll do it that way. But why don't we try it once first, just my way?
That's funny.
See how it works.
Nice.
It's like negotiating.
Sure, I get it.
Especially the CEOs.
Yeah.
They want to tell me what to do.
Yeah, well,
So
they
I
own the
let
company,
them.
so.
About half of the lesson, and then they realize, they go, oh, okay, you're the teacher. All right, you tell me.
That's funny. Yeah,
So-
I think we all wrestle with that, right? Because
Yeah.
most of the students, no matter guys or girls, they're usually very successful humans, right? So,
Yes.
So they're used to kind of being in that power role.
Yes.
And I think one of the things that is valuable to do is to just let them and remind them that, listen, you are a badass in what you do, whatever that might be. But right now you're in my backyard. And I promise, if you just surrender a little bit more and relax and let this process unfold, it's going to be so much better than trying to manage it the way you manage your career so well. That strength in your career is a weakness in the dance training. It truly is.
You want me to use that one?
It's
There you
true,
go.
right? It's true. And
There's a nugget we were waiting on.
Yeah.
to me, that's important to get through those little walls, those blockages.
Yeah,
if
you know what
will.
I'm talking about.
Totally.
It's very interesting what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're,
Well, we could sit here and
Practicing
talk about
without
this
a
all day.
license.
Yeah.
I know, very great conversation.
Yeah, we'll have to definitely come have you
Let's
back
do
on
it.
again.
I would love to.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, sir, for
Thank you.
joining us here. And it was a pleasure watching you
Yes.
move around out
Thanks.
there.
And thanks to you guys for the compliments. That means a lot. I'll make sure Christy watches this because that will mean the world to her.
Yes!
Christy,
She was
you killed it, girl. I'm
fantastic.
telling you. You were.
And the
out,
red dress.
And the red
The
dress.
red
Oh yeah,
dress.
Doree made that dress.
The
It
red
was
dress.
stunning, right?
And if
I
you
told
know
her it was
about-
the best dress in the ballroom, and I don't think
It
I was
was
lying.
awesome.
No.
It was gorgeous.
Beautiful. And there is a little something that my costume designer told me. At
Okay.
Emerald,
Yep.
red is the best color on the floor because of the lighting.
I did
If
not
you've
know
gone
that.
to
Look,
Emerald-
we were lucky with that choice, Christy. Good job.
Red. At
Red
Emerald.
girl, you killed it.
And it, yeah,
All right.
beautiful.
Mel, thank you
My
again.
Thank you
pleasure.
so much for your
My
time. I
pleasure. Thank
appreciate
you guys
it.
for
The
having
lovely
me.
Amay, thank you.
Jose, this has been great. Thank you.
This is awesome. We should do this every week.
Okay.
All right, folks, this has been another episode of Dance Teachers Academy. Thank you for watching.